Today on Locked On Rockies, the Colorado Rockies embrace the future, look ahead, and trust the future of the organization to two young players. And there's lots of reason to be excited about the left side of the infield for the Colorado Rockies yet again.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 27th day of March in the year 2023. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team each and every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, guess what? That's where you want to be, is right here. It's the Locked On Rockies podcast, where we're doing that every day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. You can find us also live on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show by joining in the Locked On Rockies YouTube chat. Ask your questions, give us your hot takes, be part of the show. Folks, we're on the path to 500 YouTube subscribers, and we're asking you to help the show grow by going to YouTube, clicking that subscribe button, and be part of the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Baseball GM, and I know you've dreamed of becoming an MLB GM because you're a Rockies fan. The game is definitely for you. That's Ultimate Baseball GM. Visit ultimatebaseballgm.com or look it up on the app stores. Our listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On in the game. Promo code's all caps there. Today on Locked On Rockies, we are talking about the future of the team being set. The Rockies embracing, the Rockies going for it, the Rockies confirming what Rockies fans were hoping to hear all spring long, and it's backed up by performance. The Colorado Rockies' left side of the infield is the future, is the foundation once again. The Colorado Rockies have an exciting platoon of players there that are going to play third and shortstop. It's pretty incredible for the Rockies to be able to do it yet again. Now, the shoes of Nolan Arenado and Trevor Story are massive ones to fill, and that I'm not saying just because the Rockies are embracing it and just because of the spring of Elehuris Montero and Ezequiel Tovar that they're going to meet those expectations. But you can see the threads. You can see the possibilities. Elehuris Montero will not be the defender that Nolan Arenado is. And that is okay because Nolan Arenado is once-in-a-generation defensive player, arguably the greatest defensive third baseman to play the game, arguably the greatest third baseman to ever play the game. I'm never going to not be a homer for Nolan Arenado. But Elehuris Montero was the best player this spring for the Rockies, and that is exactly how you want the spring to pan out. He was the number one player on my list to watch throughout the spring, and what does he do? He did the number one thing I was looking for: hit the ball hard and far and drive in runs. Leads the Rockies in the spring with 5 home runs. That is more than the rest of the team. That's how you lead the team. And you know what else is a great sign? Right behind him at 4 home runs is Kris Bryant. Ryan McMahon with 3. The three names that you need to be hitting the ball out of the yard and having good, strong offensive performances at the dish in the spring are having them. I know the main theme is Tovar and Montero, but let's not neglect this real quick here, folks. Elehuris Montero in 21 games this spring, 328 average, a 381 OBP, a slugging, a 621, and an OPS of 1.02. That's with the 5 home runs and 12 RBIs, 19 hits in those 21 games. Kris Bryant in 15 games, 37 at-bats for him. He has 11 hits, 4 home runs, 8 RBI, and a line of 297, OBP of 409, a slugging 676, and an OPS of 1.085. And then you follow that up with Ryan McMahon, who in 19 games, 49 at-bats, has the 3 home runs, batting .306, OBP of .404, slugging of .571, OPS of .975, 8 RBI. Great, encouraging signs there from Rockies players that need to be better, more, that need to perform more, that need to do more. Ryan McMahon, we're looking at those strikeouts, though, buddy. 19 of them. That's a strikeout a game so far for Ryan McMahon. But the big thing, the main takeaway for me from this spring, at least so far, Elehuris Montero looks to be ready and primed, and he is the guy. And now we don't have to worry about anything. It's not a hesitation with him. It's not a will they, won't they for the Rockies. They are going with their guy at third base. This is what you need to do. This is the type of commitment. This is what we need to see, the level of commitment from the Rockies when it comes to Montero, especially with the trade. And Montero has taken a big stride here, as we read from the Denver Post and Patrick Saunders. Elehuris Montero arrived at spring training with a lot to prove. Again, this is the Denver Post. Patrick Saunders, Rocky spring training report. Elehuris Montero makes big strides, named camp MVP. Camp MVP, folks. That is huge. Yes, it's in the grand scheme of things, not so much, but that's the guy. Imagine the type of conversations we'd be having right now if Montero was struggling this spring and wasn't in a position to take the opening, the opportunity that has been presented to himself with the Ryan McMahon shift to second base. He had the opportunity. The door was open due to the unfortunate injury to Brendan Rodgers. And what did he do? He went out and showed himself in the spring that he's ready to go. Back to the Denver Post here. Montero, 24, not only won the starting third base job, but he also showed that he might be primed to be a high-impact player. Montero launched his team-leading 5th home run of the Cactus League on Sunday in Colorado's 7-5 loss to Cincinnati. His latest wallop was 428 two-run blast in the 4th, and we read through the rest of it here. But let's skip down here. The more he works, the better his footwork is getting, new infield coach Warren Schaefer said. For me, it's just a matter of him defending at the next level because I saw him play third at AAA, and he got it done there. He's a big man, and he has to be in the right spot because his range is not going to be incredible, but he can make the plays there. Montero also needs to bring his 32.4% strikeout rate down, mostly by laying off breaking pitches that spin out of the zone. Manager Bud Black said the third baseman is making incremental progress. That's the thing that he has to focus on, like a lot of players. I think what we've talked about a lot, and I think what we're going to see the Rockies struggle with again, just due to the hitters that they have and the nature of the game, is strikeouts. We mentioned 19 strikeouts for Ryan McMahon so far this spring, 24 strikeouts for Michael Toglia, 11 for Montero, 10 from Chris Bryant. 10 from Ezequiel Tovar, 10 from CJ Crone, 23 from Brian Servin. I mean, there are a lot of strikeouts for the Rockies here in the spring. So it's not just a Montero problem with the strikeouts. And when you compare him to other Rockies players, yes, he's still in the double digits, but he's not necessarily on the worst end of it like a Ryan McMahon, a Toglia, and a Servin are when it comes to the strikeouts there. So let's go back here. With time, he'll get better. This is Bud Black speaking to the Denver Post. With time, he'll get better and better. He's not a finished product. He's just 24 years old. There are still some things he's going to continue to grow from in the big leagues. And that's important. And I think that sets the stage as well for Montero, is the fact that we got to remember that there is going to be growing pains with both Montero and Tovar. And that's okay. But that's exactly why you have seasons like this, to give them the full opportunities to start working on things, start growing, and start adapting to and changing their game up so they can play at the next level, at the elite level, like not only that they think that they're capable of, but that the Rockies want them to. Let's dive into Tovar's line a little bit, and let's talk about the defense and things to be excited by. Ezequiel Tovar coming up here in segment number 2. But before we do that, got to tell you about Ultimate Pro Baseball GM. And folks, if you want to hang with my guy Jeff at Locked On Guardians, they're doing all sorts of stuff with it, and he's really into this game, and this is a great opportunity for you out there if you love this type of stuff, if you like all of the simulations, and this is the game for you. It's going to be, it's not easy. Let me emphasize, it is not easy because you got to hire your coaches. You got to manage team finances. You got to scout and draft, and you got to go through free agency, plus navigating the ups and downs of the season and what your owners want you to do. And when you can go check it out for yourself, you are going to be able to find it on the App Store using also our handy dandy QR code right here on the screen. I'm always so bad at my directions. You can see where it is over here. In the bottom corner here, go to probaseballgm.com. Get that 100% free boost when you use the promo code Locked On in the game shop. And that boost is going to help you folks. You definitely want to take advantage of that. Any extra advantage you can get over the competition in this game, well, that is going to be the difference between a championship season or the chopping block getting fired. Locked On Rockies listeners get 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On in the game store. ProBaseballGM.com. Scan the code or look it up in app stores. That's ProBaseballGM.com. Ultimate Baseball GM. Start your dynasty today. Want to thank you for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. We are also streaming live on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, which you can be a part of when you subscribe to Locked On Rockies on YouTube. Just like Joel DeGrace, just like Rat King, and just like Lux Ace. And they're out here saying, Joel DeGrace says, I'm really excited to see the kids play. I wonder if they'll stay the course for the entire season or Momford it up and do something silly with them. You know, I think they would start off by doing something silly because here's the deal. If they don't perform, then you are going to platoon. And realistically, I think it's now the Mike Moustakas signing can get a little bit more padding and a little bit nicer now that we know the Rockies are going to start Montero and that he earned in the Rockies' eye the start over the veteran. That is something that I think we can feel a little bit better in, especially with Moustakas' summer as well. As for what maybe the Momfording getting in the way, I don't necessarily think that there's much that they could do other than just committing more to vets. I think the bigger concern isn't going to be getting Montero or Tovar on the field. It's going to be the outfield and how you want to handle getting, I'd say the right side of the infield with first base and the clog there in DH and in the outfield is going to be a little bit more interesting. And now it's just going to be Mike Moustakas is going to give CJ Cron a day off at first, give Montero a day off at third, and give someone else a day off in the DH, and he's going to find himself in the lineup wherever, but I think he understands his role. And I mean, if Moose is able to come back and bounce back and be solid for the Rocks, and we get another player that unlocks a little bit of offense, that's going to be a major for the Rockies. Anybody that can launch a couple more homers for the Rockies is going to be an addition, and I think Moose has the potential to do that. Rat King says, really excited for Montero to get his shot. Me too. I think he's, now with Brendan Rodgers out for the season, I think he is my most excited Rocky to watch. But the Chris Bryant hype train is building because I am liking what I am seeing from the Chris Bryant swing in the spring. I tell you that. Joel DeGrace says his baseball GM team is tough. I've told you. It is no joke. It is not easy. And hello to you, Nicholas Delvo. He asked him if I'm going to the games against the Mariners. In fact, I am. I will be going to go check out. I'm going to try to go to the whole series if I can. That is the goal. But absolutely, I will be seeing our boys there. Joel DeGray says, I'm stoked to see Moose make it. I think he's going to add some internal competition for DH and relief on third and first when needed. Yeah, I think Moose fits the perfect bench spot and platoon fill for the Rockies. It's, again, I was worried initially with the Moose thing because it was like, oh boy, they're signing Mike Moustakas in the wake of the Brendan Rodgers. They're going to block Montero. But now that it's not, it just makes sense because where Moose can just fill into those places where you're going to need Moose to fill in, and you're going to need, a different schedule of people needing time off. And let's see here. Luxay says, it's safe to say we will play a full season of Zeke because our other shortstop is Trejo. When healthy, KB is a top 30 player. I think Alan Trejo deserves a little bit more credit than that. I mean, Team Mexico chose him to be the starter the entire run of that bracket. He didn't necessarily shy away from that, and he had some moments. I think Trejo is an interesting option as well for the team and what they'll do with him. And maybe if they try to move him as well. Don't know what's up with the Profar situation. That they're going to have to figure that out. They said they hope for him to be there on opening day, but I wouldn't count on it there for that. Okay. Live chat aside, that's what we like to do. We like to chat with the live chat. It's always fun. Tovar, the offense is going to be there, but folks, man, we are seeing some unbelievable defense. We are getting what's advertised there in terms of the glove from Ezequiel, Tovar, and that's the exciting part. Montero's overall lack of, he's not going to be, at least right now, not the elite defender. But the fact that behind him, someone that can back him up, that the Rockies are producing yet another elite infield talent on the left side of the infield, man, it hits every box, and it just really excites you as a Rockies fan. That great infield defense is, especially when paired. Unfortunately, we're not going to see it paired with Brendan Rodgers, but when the Rockies have the stellar infield defense like we've seen from their cores before, it has been a treat, a delight, especially for pitchers like Kyle Freeland. The Rockies having good infield defense is what makes Kyle Freeland better. It's what makes Antonio Senzatella better. It helps out your pitchers dramatically, and to know that they're going to have someone like that with those defensive capabilities in Ezequiel Tovar is incredibly encouraging, and that's on top of swinging a pretty decent bat for the Rockies as well. Here, batting .286, 352 OBP, a slugging of .429, and an OPS of 781 here, 14 hits in 49 at-bats, including a couple of home runs, 6 RBIs, like I said, 10 strikeouts as well. But that's not a bad line. It's not a bad line indeed. Leandro, I'm pretty sure the diagnosis for Brendan Rodgers is out for the season, at least to my knowledge. Maybe if he comes back, it'll be September, but I highly doubt that the Rockies do too much with Brendan Rodgers this season, unless they somehow somehow decide that is they want to give him a little bit of work this year, which I just don't think is going to be the case. So we'll have to hold on hope. We're going to have to hold on hope that the Rockies again. You all know how I feel about Brendan Rodgers. I think he's worth keeping, especially I think he mixes with this infield really well. And instead of it being the whole left side of the infield is covered up with great defense, your middle of the infield is that elite gold, your gold glovers there. That could be interesting too, and that could be really, especially with the shift being banned and things of that nature. So what does that look like as well? But man, it does add a layer. Those are the two guys that you really wanted to have hope and feel confident in going into the start of the season, which is this week, folks. Colorado Rockies opening day this freaking week. Pretty fun, pretty exciting, just days away here for the Rocks. And German Marquez on the bump, like we talked about in the last time. So long story short, the Colorado Rockies are in a good spot, and they're trusting them. That they're embracing these two guys, and we get to see it. This is what we needed to see this year. This is what this year's all about. This is the importance of this year. And I did hear that it might get rained out in San Diego as well, but we're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on the fact that, again, these are the things to latch onto. When you're looking last year, when you're thinking about last year at this point for the Rockies, when you're thinking about going into the season at this point, what were you looking forward to outside of Chris Bryant? It was just, what can Chris Bryant do on this team of a couple of pieces, of broken pieces, and then especially with that bullpen. This just adds another layer of intrigue and makes things a little bit more exciting. And you get more excited because if these guys are good, even if the Rockies overall aren't good, but if these guys are good, that's a good sign. That's the steps towards contention. That's where you want to be. There are positives and good things to take away, pieces from the season that are going to be better than probably the overall season for the Rockies. And let's hope the two of those pieces are Elehuris Montero and Ezequiel Tovar. Let's talk about one little extra trend. We touched base a little bit on it for the Rockies here, but I want to emphasize a little bit more about how important it is and how it's not perfectly fixed, but how it's a at least an encouraging sign for the Rockies. Let's take a look at that coming up here in segment number 3. But before we do that, got to tell you about our friends at Built Bar. The Built March Madness bracket is here, and I know that you got a favorite bar or puff. Mine, anything to do with the brownie, the double brownie, the fudge brownie, those are mine. I like the churro too. And now it is time to make it count. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com to vote for your favorites. And you, if you go vote, if you are a lucky Locked On listener, which I have a feeling you will be, you're going to get a free box of Built. That's 50 Locked On listeners going to get a free box of Built when they go and check out the votes at BuiltMarchMadness.com. But one Locked On fan is going to win a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. You got to try Built, the best protein bar ever. They're so amazing, and you won't think they're good for you. Well, they are. They got low sugar, covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, low sugar and covered in 100% real chocolate. High in protein, and you can see the macros for yourself at Built.com. But go to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day in March, so hop in and support your pick at BuiltMarchMadness.com. Do they have a cookies and cream bar? They do have a cookies and cream bar. I believe so. Pretty sure, actually. Folks, Locked On Rockies podcast, free and streaming on your favorite streaming service, live on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the Locked On Rockies live chat, just like Leandro, Luxace, Rat King, Joel DeGrace, Nicholas Delvo, and more. Always chilling, hanging out here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen. Why don't you go check out the Locked On Buffs, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets podcasts if you need more Colorado sports podcasting fix. And, of course, our friends at Locked On Fantasy Baseball going to help you win your league this year because it's right around the corner. Not only baseball season, but fantasy baseball season back in action as well. One thing I wanted to note for the Rockies, and we'll get more into the concerns from spring training from the Rockies this week, because there are some things to take away. And the Rockies gave up a lot of runs, and the bullpens kind of look shaky, and some of these younger arms, and some things are kind of a little bit worrisome for the Colorado Rockies, and I think gives people a little bit of worries to be trepidatious. But we'll handle that. We'll talk about that coming up later in this week. I want to finish again. I want to keep it on a Monday. I want to finish off on a positive note. I think the Rockies are going to hit more home runs this year. I think the Rockies are. I hope that this means that the Rockies are at least in the top half of baseball in home runs. I don't think it's going to be a huge jump. I don't think the Rockies are getting a ton of power. But when you look at the lineup, and Rat King says offense lineup looks too good this year for a 90-plus loss season, we have a real shot at 500. Drink the Kool-Aid. Well, we'll see about competing at a 500 level. I mean, could it technically happen? I guess so. But this would be a way to do it. If the Rockies hit more home runs this year, if the Rockies are not a bottom team in home runs like they were last year and have been in years past, it's going to be a huge swing for the Rockies. You're going to see less left on bases. You're going to see less missed opportunities. You're going to see the Rockies become more of a dominant home threat again, like we really haven't seen back at home so we didn't see last year. I should specify. Hitting a lot of home runs and being good at hitting the long ball is going to be an especially effective weapon at Coors Field. As we know, it's, again, a big reason why the Rockies struggled last year at home and weren't necessarily the dominant force. But Montero with 5, Chris Bryant with 4, McMahon with 3, Tolia with 3, Diaz with 2, Coco Montes with 2, Mike Moustakas with 2, Ezequiel Tovar with 2, Blackman and Crone with 1 apiece. They're at least on the board, and you hope that Crone, especially when healthy, is going to add more home runs and someone that would have a little more home runs under his belt this spring if he had actually played. So, simply put, one easy way to alleviate some of the Rockies' offensive woes is for this team to keep tapping in and keep believing in the long ball. And I think you're seeing at least some traces of the Rockies being able to be a better home run hitting team this spring. And what's it headlined by? The guy that one of the big parts of this podcast that we talked about, Elehuris Montero. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming service and live on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where we're on the push to 500 YouTube subscribers. If you can help us out, help the show grow just by going to YouTube, clicking that subscribe button really helps a ton. We had a great live chat today. Thanks to all of you. We'll be back in action 5 days a week, as we are all baseball season long, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. You can find your team every day. Locked On Rockies right here. And if you want to find us on Twitter, LO Rockies, I'm at Paul Holden 33. And until next time, I am Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.